3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from 3 Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is season 3, and today we're going to be talking about the series premiere of House of the Dragon. Don't worry, we still have plenty of Star Wars content coming, but I think we would be irresponsible nerds if we didn't even comment about this return to Westeros that a lot of people were really excited about.
Absolutely.
I have my mixed feelings about it, but we'll get into that. But before we start talking about the episode per se, I think we need to talk about Game of Thrones. We're mostly a Star Wars channel, so we haven't really explored how much us 3 have been involved or invested in that series. If we had any expectations about this prequel series, and were those expectations met? So we're going to start with you, Goose. What do you think?
It's interesting. It's interesting because I have to say, I really value us doing these asides lately to talking about other media, because we always talk about how we're Star Wars Plus.
Yes.
And the plus sometimes lacks a lot, so it's nice to be able to take a little break from the wars to be able to talk to about other fantasy and sci-fi media that we really, really like. And this is going to be a double whammy. This is going to be really good for high fantasy, because not only do we get Hot D, hashtag Hot D, as they're saying on the Twitter,
Lord
this
of
is
the
the
Rings.
worst mistake. And then we got the Lord of the Rings. So I'm very, very excited. The granddaddy and then the Mac Daddy coming together to give us high fantasy in all directions. So it's really, really cool. Very, very excited. It's gonna be overwhelming. It's gonna be overwhelming. We're gonna have Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and Star Wars. It's wild, but I'm here for it.
Oh yeah,
I'm here for it. But yeah, forget Star Wars. Star Wars is boring. Let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Oh, come on.
No, it's not.
Gotta switch teams today. But it was funny. It was funny because I remember when Game of Thrones was hot shit. It's still hot shit, considering that I just read an article that 10 million people were watching the show, and it broke servers, and broke records for HBO. Apparently, Game of Thrones is still a big deal. But back when it was a big deal, and it was a brand new thing.
Yeah.
It came out at a time when I was anti-fads. So it was with Breaking Bad. I didn't watch Breaking Bad because everyone was watching Breaking Bad.
I didn't do that either. I watched it for the first time
I watched it
years
after.
ago.
Yeah. And I regretted it, because then it's just God damn it. It was actually
I know.
Really
I should have joined that conversation because it was so good. I know. It happens.
And then with Game of Thrones, it was kind of more or less the same thing, because I was avoiding watching it. And I remember it was your brother. It's somehow always connected to the pre
one of us.
The pre-podcast days, when we were still having our impromptu podcast at your house.
Uno de los Martínez always getting you into something.
Without recording it though. I remember it was your bro always telling me Goose, you have to watch the show. The show is awesome. I read all the books. I'm a nerd. The show is amazing. It's there's everything you want in the show. I'm no, everyone's watching it. No, I'm not gonna watch it. And then I remember it was one day actually, I went to your house on a Sunday or something, and obviously you were there because you're always at your house. And was it the battle of the what was it called, the Battle of the Blackwater or something like that, when they have the dragon fire and they throw it over the lake because they're attacking King's Landing or something like that?
I don't remember all the episodes now.
I think it was season 3 or season 4 or something like that, and they were doing that with the imp slap, when Tyrion slaps Joffrey across the face.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That
episode
was very
satisfying.
And after that episode, he was damn, I'm in. I guess I'm part of the club now. I need to watch it. And it was a really, really fun time to be watching Game of Thrones, because it was before. It was before streaming was the thing where you would just binge the show.
Yeah.
It was still the thing where you would watch it on a Sunday, and then you came in on Monday, and you're at work, and then you talk about it on Monday with your colleagues, and did you watch the last episode? Okay, what do you think? And then you just figure everything out at the same time. So it was really wholesome, and I use wholesome cautiously because Game of Thrones is not a wholesome show, but it was a beautiful time. It was a beautiful time to just be a fantasy fan, because it was in the post Lord of the Rings era, where it's just okay, there's no more Lord of the Rings content.
Lord of the Rings is done.
And then it's just okay, I'm ready for some adult shit. And that's when Game of Thrones came by. because it's just like Lord of the Rings on steroids. And I loved it. Obviously, there were lots of diminishing returns. People, especially all you book nerds, were like very upset with like season 5. It's in season 5, right? 5, 6, and 7, and 8.
I actually started watching it after like halfway through season 3. I think I gave up and was done.
Oh my god, what a snob!
I know, super snob.
Anyway, but see, I didn't have that problem since I didn't read the books.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just enjoying the ride. So like even though people were talking about diminishing returns and like those seasons, I'm still having fun. It was season 7 that I was just like, oh, something's wrong here.
That was terrible.
Like,
it was so bad.
I was just like, whoa, why is there fast travel now? I didn't understand this is a PlayStation game all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But I forgave it. I'm just like, okay, well, maybe they're just like, okay, they're setting the pieces to like get to, the climax of the show and do everything. And then, and
then season 8.
And then season 8, and what hasn't been said about season 8?
What a shit show.
It's I don't think I can contribute much more to the conversation than it already has been contributed. But it happened, and it's better to have some content, I guess, than no content. So for what it was, it's just like, hey, could it have been better? Definitely. But at least we got a season of Game of Thrones and get me something to talk about for, what was it, 8 episodes, 10 episodes? So that's more entertainment than I would have had otherwise. So let's try to look on the bright side. But after that, I wasn't as excited to come back to Westeros, and we'll obviously get to if I liked or not House of the Dragon. But almost a spoiler, it was slightly comforting to be back in Westeros. That was my experience.
That was your experience.
It was a little long-winded, but we haven't talked about Game of Thrones, so
no, we haven't talked about it. So
Joanne, you have a completely different experience.
Yes. So I'm gonna start off with I haven't seen Game of Thrones.
It happens.
But I mean, I'm gonna watch it, and I have to say that House of Dragons, it was really great. So
it's also good to come in with a clean slate. Like you don't expect, you don't know what house it ends. So this is before. So maybe it is kind of better to just, have this type of introduction into the world. So
definitely, like it's a pre-sequel. So
Pero did you know anything about Game of Thrones going into House of the Dragon, or were you just like, okay, this is something
just from like memes or something and stuff?
Yeah, sort of. Like actually when my brothers were watching it, like I couldn't see it because I was like studying for my master degree and stuff like that. And after that,
the worst. They're watching. You're like,
I have to like watch it, and then I kept telling myself I was gonna watch it, but it's up to date. I haven't watched it, so.
So you weren't like Nani or me, who now refused to watch it, and me who refused to watch it at different times. You just didn't get to it.
Yeah,
that's good. I mean, that's good.
But I will.
That's good to an extent, because then now you can just enjoy it your way instead of like the bandwagon. You don't have to binge it.
There's no wrong way to nerd out.
There is no wrong way.
Yeah.
It's good. And then maybe, well, whatever. I'm not going to tell you how to watch it, but it will be interesting to watch it like after House of Dragon is then done, because then it's like, okay, now it's
then start
a true sequel. It's like watching the Star Wars prequels before the original trilogy or something. I don't know. That could be interesting, but that might be a long time to wait. So maybe don't listen to me. But Nani, you are the resident George R.R. Martin snob here. You were on the Game of Thrones train before there was a train.
I was not actually.
Oh,
I watched season 1 when it came out, like as soon as it came out, because I felt like that lack of high fantasy, because I was a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So as soon as I heard that the series was getting made, HBO has amazing production quality, and I remember hearing about it, and I hadn't heard about it at all, and then I was like obsessed with that first season. It was so incredibly good. I was hooked from episode 1, and then you get that massive cliffhanger at the end of season 1. So I was like, I need more of this. So I next day I went to Borders, got back when there was a Borders. I'm so old.
Borders.
And I got all of the books, and I think A Dance of Dragons had just come out. It was in hardcover. So it's my fault. I didn't do my due diligence. I just assumed that was the last book. The series was finished. Let's just get into this. And I actually started reading book one, even though I had just seen that first season, because there's always
There's
changes
always
that they do.
differences, yeah.
Book one was an amazing adaptation,
Especially with how massive those books are, right? 'Cause they're,
and
like,
especially
super
they
long.
keep getting like bigger. Every single one gets bigger. So that first one was a really, really good adaptation. So I was really excited. By the time season 2 came out, I had read the entire series, so I was really excited to like continue on this journey. And I convinced Josbando to read them too. Obviously, this season, even before we had started dating, and he read all of them. So when the season started coming out, we would like yell at the TV when they would change things. And Josbando was a lot more tolerant about it, but there were some changes that were really pissing me off that they were doing to like some of my favorite characters. And I was like, I can't, this is making me angry. So I just stopped watching it. Josbando kept watching it until like
you're too passionate about it.
I know. I'm
too
sorry.
precious, I think.
So Josbando actually kept watching it until around like season 5, and then he gave up too. And then when they announced that the series finale was happening, and it has been years since a book has come out, and the series went beyond the books, and I was like, at this point, George, I'm looking at you. We're probably never gonna know how they end. No, so we figured, we're not. You know what? We might as well just have a little bit of a conclusion here. And we rewatched it before season 8 came out. We started from season 1 all the way through. And this time I told myself, it's a separate thing from the books. Just try to enjoy it for what it is. Like separate yourself from it. And I ended up enjoying it a lot. And then the series finale happened.
Well, that's a completely separate conversation. Yeah. Because I think that's the point, right? They also changed a lot of things from the Lord of the Rings books, but you have to, right? There's so much crap in a book that you can't
no, and I mean, otherwise, because those books are really, really extensive, and he was pretty clear that he kind of wanted to express and different things in the series. So he had been quoted as saying that the conclusion is supposed to be the same, but the way that they get there was going to be different.
The journey, the destination is the same. The journey,
it's a different media. It's different ways. You can't, especially books that are that extensive. It's almost impossible to get everything onto screen version of it. I mean, it's just way too much. But that's last season, and I'm still pissed about it because HBO had offered to do like as many seasons that they wanted to do, so they can conclude it in a way that's satisfactory. Like the actual where everybody ends up makes sense.
Before you keep going, Joanne, do you care about spoilers? Because we,
I'm not gonna say how it actually.
I think in the train that Nani's going, it might ruin something. And
no. I'm not gonna say how it actually ends. I'm just saying that the actual conclusion makes sense.
Okay.
But the way that they do it in those first few episodes, like if they would have done at least one more season, it would have made sense. The way they did it was like, what? All this build up and really? Okay.
That's what like was upsetting to me. It's just like you spend 5, 6 seasons, 7 seasons building something up, and then he's like, never mind.
And then all the books and all the things and everything.
So
I gotta be honest, when they announced this one, I was kind of pissed about it. It's like, George, why are you doing all these series? But just finish the damn books. Just sit on your ass and finish the books, please. I didn't even care about it, but it's still high fantasy. It's still HBO. Of course, I'm going to watch it. I'm full of crap, and I will tell you my thoughts after we start getting into it. But of course, I watched it. Of course, I'm going to watch the whole thing.
A question for everyone here. Obviously, obviously to us, the biggest comparison that you can do, right, between high fantasy immediately, right? It's Lord of the Rings versus Game of Thrones. So we haven't seen Rings of Power. That's coming out on my birthday.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that.
You're very happy about that.
I'm very happy for that. I am very happy about it. Well, it depends on what time it comes out. Because if it comes out like at night, it's just like, sorry, I got things to do. I'll watch it next day. So we can't compare obviously to Rings of Power because we haven't seen it. But having seen, Joanne, you've seen House of the Dragon. So having seen like that and Lord of the Rings, are you on any particular team? Do you prefer Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones? Do you have like a preference between one or the other, or do you think that you're pretty equal towards your high fantasy? Now we start with you.
Yeah, good question. I would say that I would prefer Lord of the Rings by just watching like the first episode. I think it's a good start off like to like I've watched this episode, but I would definitely choose Lord of the Rings. Like,
What makes you like Lord of the Rings more, though? I mean, I know that one episode of a series is not enough to
Right.
judge the whole series as a whole, but what vibe from the episode kind of keeps you on the Lord of the Rings side?
I don't know. I would say how it actually started. I don't know.
Mhm.
It keeps you like more motivated,
Mhm.
and everything seems like super, like, I would say, like very fun at the beginning.
Yeah, there's no fun
Um,
in this.
right,
Ready,
right.
ready to kill people.
Right, right. We're ready to kill people. That's it. But yeah, I would say like definitely I would choose Lord of the Rings, how it starts with this storyline and like eventually like continues uh
Oh yeah.
the story itself.
Nani, what about you? How do you feel about Lord of the Rings versus A Song of Ice and Fire?
I think they're very
Because
hard to compare.
you read
I
Lord
read
of the
A
Rings
Song of
too.
Ice and
Okay.
Fire, and I read Lord of the Rings. Yes, I read both. In terms
I've only
of,
read the Lord of the Rings.
yeah, I mean, in terms of actual reading, Game of Thrones is a lot easier to get into, just
Mhm.
because it's just like straight in your face. Lord of the Rings, as you know, it has, it was written really, Tolkien wrote these languages and then kind of did the story around the languages, so it was more like a linguistic study and like a historical study. So sometimes reading it is like
Not
really
easy.
slow and hard to get into. And as much as I've loved them, it takes a while, especially that first one. Like they're in the Shire forever. But anyway, I love them. And Game of Thrones is just in your face, everybody hating each other, like this craziness. You're reading from the perspective of like so many different characters with these huge families, and you're like right towards the end of generations and generations of the Seven Kingdoms. And I don't know, it's very different. And it's the same, I think, watching it as well, because Lord of the Rings, as much as obviously there's a lot of battles and a lot of gore and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's way more wholesome and about families that are kind of like supportive of each other, and the journey. And obviously there's a lot of great villains as well in Lord of the Rings, but Game of Thrones, almost everybody is an asshole.
Well, I think it's a thing from time and a place, right? Like when Lord of the Rings was written post World War II, it's kind of like, okay, we need to. It was kind of like A New Hope, right? It's just like, okay, we need something that's a little more binary, good versus bad, something that feels good. And like Game of Thrones, when did the first book come out? Like in the 80s or something like that?
I think it was the 80s, but I'm not
sure. So like Reagan, Cold War, it's just like everything sucks. It's just like my high fantasy has to represent how terrible the world is instead of like how hopeful it can be. So
which
high fantasy, which
love.
is contextual, is very good because it's supposed to reflect the world you live in, right?
Which I actually love, because I love the stories of villains, and especially in Game of Thrones, characters that are maybe initially presented as like the good guys, it turns out a lot of times they're worse. A lot of times they're even worse than the ones that are supposed to be the villains. A lot of the villains get redeemed. A lot of them are really relatable from both sides, and it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray in Game of Thrones. Obviously, it's also way more explicit, which HBO clearly capitalized on.
It takes a lot of advantage on.
So we could see it obviously in Game of Thrones, and now in House of the Dragon, there's a lot of tits and ass.
Well, I was surprised by that, because I had read an article that said that they weren't going to be as sexually exploitative as they had been with Game of Thrones, that they were going to like tone that down, and all of a sudden we're at a harem, and I'm just not a harem,
an orgy,
a ladies of the night house, to call it. So I'm just like,
a brothel.
Well, I was thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
A brothel having an orgy after the king's wife and baby boy died. Like, come on, that was.
Well, I mean, the city has to keep going. They have to keep offering their services.
They have to keep going with the orgy.
Yeah, they have to keep. Yeah, you can't cancel the. It's like the only person that shouldn't have been at the orgy was Doctor Who. He should have stayed home. And obviously that plays into the plot, obviously, but
of course.
Yeah, but I was surprised. I was surprised by the brothel. I thought I'm not saying we wouldn't get any nudity, but I thought it would take a while and it would be not as explicit, right, as it kind of was in that scene. I was like, okay, well, maybe they did lie to us, and maybe they're just gonna do the same thing as they did with the Game of Thrones.
Like Cersei and Jaime in what, like the first episode ever?
But in the first episode, I don't think there was any nudity. Actually, maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, but a brother was fucking his sister, and a kid sees it and gets knocked out the window. Sorry
Well, you
about the
got
spoiler.
Spoilers.
It's
gotta-
10 years. It's
is-
your fault.
I keep hearing spoilers.
it's like it's been 10 years. We were being kind at the beginning, so like but you have to set the
Yeah.
tone, right, of
Yeah.
the series
Yeah.
real quick, and that set the tone. It's just like, oh shit, not even children are safe.
Yeah, I was
in
like,
this show.
I remember seeing that. I was like, oh my god, this show is just not gonna hold anything back. Okay.
No. So with all that being said, and obviously this is not a retrospective of Game of Thrones. Maybe we'll do that after Joanne finishes this the series. Watching it. Maybe we can do like a season by season thing, so we could.
But
we
yeah,
don't have
like
to rush her.
right. So, but yeah, big difference within Lord of the Rings that like Lord of the
yeah.
Very
Rings
much so.
is an epic fantasy adventure, like and
Yeah.
The most we get is a little kiss between Aragorn and Arwen, and that's it.
yeah.
That's as much sexual tension as you're gonna get. And not so much with Game of Thrones. All that being said, though, expectations into House of the Dragon. I know we touched up on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Joanne, did you have anything that you felt towards the show coming into it, or were you just like, oh, whatever, I have to watch it now for the podcast?
I was really open to it, so like I actually watched it this morning. So
Okay, so you have
it
fresh. It's fresh.
right. I had no expectations really, but it went really good. Like I definitely enjoyed it. It was really nice.
Nani, you were opposite. You were like, nope, I do not want this show.
Yeah, I feel like I don't need it. I just need the man to sit down and finish the series.
Finish. the other ones.
Especially
I
because
see.
that conclusion was not satisfactory. Like, give me a real conclusion.
No, there wasn't. No, yeah,
No.
it wasn't. But it's interesting because I kind of relate to you a little bit because I felt it was cynical, right? To just like
Yeah.
do another show. Just like, okay, well, it feels like you're just trying to, okay, well, since the series is done, we still
Yeah.
want that Game of Thrones money, so let's
Yeah.
just like
Let's
do
just
something
do-
else. Let's do
Mhm.
something that's the same but different, but kind of try to fix our mistakes a little bit, and but keep people engaged. So like I obviously saw it as corporate cynicism. Let's just
Yeah.
capitalize on something that obviously makes us money. But at the end of the day, it's just like I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, I mean, let's see. I mean, I'll give anything a try as long as it's the creators are honest about it. And it seemed like everything about the creation of the show seemed very honest, and all the creators were like very enthused. And
Yeah.
obviously, George Martin is very much more involved with this show than he was with the latter seasons
Yeah.
of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, well, maybe this is a course correction, and we'll just get to see something new. And I was gonna watch it originally yesterday. I wasn't gonna watch it on premiere day on Sunday. But then all of a sudden, like I'm on Sunday, I was gonna go to the movies, and all of a sudden, like I felt like it was a couple of years ago. All of a sudden, my body's just like, oh, it's Game of Thrones time. Get ice cream, get popcorn. Like it's time to do it.
Just
and
do
like
it.
my body was just like, no, don't go to the movies. Sit on that couch, and you're gonna watch Game of Thrones along with the rest of the world. And I was just like, oh crap! Like, am I doing this? Am I gonna watch the show when it premieres? And you bet your ass I did. And it was very. This is not a review of the show, but it was very comforting to be back in Westeros.
Yeah.
Especially when like one of those scenes when they're, it was even in the prologue when the theme song of Game of Thrones like starts playing quietly with the violins and stuff like that.
That was exciting.
It's like,
I mean,
okay,
it's an amazing theme song. It is.
Yeah, and it's the same composer. I forgot his
Okay.
name, but it's the same composer
Mhm.
from Game of Thrones. It's coming back for Hot D. So it's very exciting. And yeah, so like when that happened, I just heard the Game of Thrones theme song. I was like, well, I guess
We're back.
I'm in the I'm on the train and I'm staying on it.
I think it was also really fun because I refuse to reread the book series until it's actually done, because I'm just not going to torture myself with that ever again. So I obviously don't have everything as fresh as I used to, but it's kind of fun to hear, all these people and where they're from, and then, oh, this is house this is house this is the house that, and to see the sigils again and like kind of be immersed into this very intricate world.
Oh my God, it's exhausting to me. I was like, oh,
it's
crap.
a lot.
I had a hard time last time, and like now he's like, oh,
yeah, it's like who's
who?
I'm like, I don't remember who the hell's who.
I don't know for you, but for me, like I'm bad with the names. Period.
Yeah.
I'm bad with names. So fantasy names and Star Wars names even more so because they're weird names.
Yeah.
It's not real world names. So like this whole thing always gives me trouble to remember who the hell is, well, not who they are, but what their name is. And I don't know about you, but I feel that Hot D, all the names are considerably more complicated than the names in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are.
They are. But I'm pretty sure.
It's like,
I mean,
crap.
it's still based on that book that George wrote about House Targaryen, and that book I think is more
Fire
of a
and
genealogy.
Blood, I think it's called.
I think it's more. It's not like a novel. It's just like more a genealogy. So he decided to go complicated with the names again, I guess.
And then it's like 100 Years of Solitude. Like the family just keeps like reusing names and stuff like that. The Targaryens. So it's just like, well, I thought this was the other guy. It's like, well, it is the other guy, but it's also this guy because it's the other name.
The other one.
It's like, oh my god, just help me, help me out.
Yeah,
give me a little cheat sheet or something. It's very complicated in a fun way.
You can find some online because like hardcore nerds.
True. There are just like there's Star Wars nerds.
Actually,
there's a nerd for
George
everything.
R. Martin has been quoted to say that sometimes when he'd be writing, he'd like had to reach out to them and be like, "What eye color is this person that I wrote? Because you guys keep track of all this, but even I don't keep track of that." So
can you imagine that you created something?
Yeah.
And it's so complicated that
the fans are more
some people, some random nerd on the internet knows more about your own thing than you do. That's wild. That's wild. But let's get into the show. Hot D, House of the Dragon, premiered on Sunday. Here we are talking about it, Star Wars and other nerd-related media. So this is that other nerd-related media. We're talking about it. It's gonna be fun. We're back in Westeros. First episode in. Joanne, what's your initial reaction to that first episode? Having it fresh in your mind since you saw it this morning.
And the fact that you came in with a clean slate.
With a clean slate, no expectations.
I would say I definitely enjoyed the episode. But I have like one comment about it. Like I would love to see other episodes and series where like also the woman like would also be like not treated like being like crazy sort of and be part of the like of the dynasty and be queens itself. So like without being like disrespectful towards us.
100%.
You gotta watch Game of Thrones. If you know how it ends, you will know that it is very unfair to women.
It's very unfair to women.
It is.
You think they're going to like do the subversive? I mean, I don't want to, again, no spoilers. But you think they're gonna do the subversive thing, and then it just ends up being male gaze. And for anyone who doesn't know what male gaze is, obviously what the term implies, it's media that's created through the perspective of masculinity in our Western society. And if you want to understand more about it, our friend Ty Black has some amazing videos on her YouTube channel, Wit and Folly, where she talks about male gaze and femme gaze. Go check them out. You'll learn a lot. It's wonderful. So I think that's the problem with like doing all these things, right? That's like supposed to be subversive about like female characters, especially when it's written by especially old white guys. And just like it fails because it's like you need female writers in the room to be able to empower women.
It's definitely unfair, but putting that aside, I would say that it's a very nice episode, and everything's like I quite enjoyed the cynical part of it of the series because like I don't know, I really don't care if it's cynical or not. But it was like really nice. It was a really nice episode, and I would definitely continue watching it and then go do Games of Thrones.
Yeah, no, it's a good point about the cynicism because I am talking about like, the cynical corporate thing about making the sequel series, and then we're excited about Andor, which is the exact same thing.
Different though.
It's the same thing. It's a company. That movie was good. Let's do a spinoff about it. It's the same thing.
I know.
Every new Star Wars show that comes out is a corporate money grab. So we have to be fair. We're cynical about one thing. We have to be cynical about the other.
It's true.
Nani, what did you think about?
Actually, I'm gonna piggyback on what Joanne was saying. That
yes, please.
The treatment of women. I mean, I know this is further back in the past, but I mean the original I think it was the original Aegon Targaryen who was married to his two sisters, but the two sisters rode with him, you know, on their dragons. And that's how, you know, the Targaryens established themselves in Westeros, you know, and
which is this Aegon, is he before Hot Tea or after Hot Tea?
no, this is at the very, very beginning. This is already like the
so this is in Valyria.
The ones who came from Valyria were Aegon and his two sisters. I'm pretty sure Nymeria and like another one, and they were like his sisters that were his wives, and they're the ones that came over with their dragons and took over the Seven Kingdoms and established House Targaryen as the rulers.
Because there's another Aegon though.
Yes,
right?
well,
isn't Aegon Daenerys' great grandfather or something, the Mad King?
There's no. That's another one. Aegon, the most latest Aegon, is actually Jon Snow, who's actually Aegon Targaryen.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I'm sorry. It's been 10 years.
Yeah. No, that one has not been 10 years. That one's been 3 years.
I called it from book one.
I wasn't there. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. Anyway,
no,
keep going.
The Mad King was another one, I think. I don't know. There's so many Targaryens. I'm sorry. Well, to begin with, I thought that that's where they were going to start, like the beginning of the Targaryen dynasty, which I think is very, very interesting. And this is kind of like the beginning of their fall. And the way that they've been treating women, clearly, that whole C-section scene, I mean, it is very telling, because that is exactly, you know, what the Tribunal Supremo, I lost the word.
The Supreme Court.
The U.S. Supreme Court, that's how they see women, as, you know, vessels for children, and that's all the value that they have. And oh, you're in danger of death. Oh, but that's my heir. I can't even confirm if it's a son, but I'm gonna kill you so I can get my heir. And then, well, you know, obviously it backfired because he lost both.
But I think that's interesting the way you frame that, because especially when talking about real world situations, right? And like what the politics in, I was gonna say Puerto Rico, but the world, Puerto Rico, US, whatever. It's just a lot of like these men that are like doing all these laws are just like, oh, we care about women. It's about protecting women too. And like, oh, I have a daughter, I have a wife, blah, 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 blah. And they're exactly like, I forget this king's name because I can't remember any name from this series. And he's just like, well, I love my wife, but at the end of the day, it's just like, well, but I love my wife, but is that enough to really care about?
Right. I love my wife, but I want
but I see value. I see more value in this. I think that's interesting framing, right? It's just like,
and completely ignoring the female point of view, because his wife had already told him that she couldn't do it anymore, that she'd been willing to give birth to as many children as he wanted, but she'd lost, like, she'd already had like 2 stillbirths, and which has to be the most horrible experience to give birth to a dead child. And it had happened twice, and then other ones hadn't survived, and then the daughter was the only one, and apparently all her births were extremely painful, and she's tired, and she's expressing this to him. And
she's desperate, like,
and acknowledging that, you know, she matters, she's a life that's important. And then he didn't even explain to her what was happening. He was like, oh, we're getting the baby, and then cut right into it. Was really gruesome to watch. But it says a lot about where we are, because a lot of men and the Supreme Court of the United States believe that that is okay to do. The women's opinion doesn't matter.
As a man, I'm not going to opine on this subject, so I want to hear both of you guys' perspective on it. Do you feel that scene, because I've been reading some articles online about the gruesomeness of that scene and whether it was necessary or not, so I want to hear what your guys' perspective on, especially like with what you're talking about now in terms of what the scene's trying to do. Do you feel like the violence of that birth, of the C-section, and showing the horror of it was justified with what the show was trying to do, or do you think it was unnecessary and gratuitous? I'll start with you, Joanne. What did you think, since you were talking about it first?
The visuals itself, I don't think it was as gratuitous as people say. Like, you get similar things in medical shows. Obviously, the difference being that it's framed as a medical show and they have the actual tools to do it, and it's the procedure that is understood. And this is said as in, oh, we've never really done this before. It's the kind of theoretical, and we know that she's going to die. So, you know, and it's very bloody, clearly. I think it served a purpose. because I think
Mhm.
the thing is, I don't know where they were trying to go with this. Are they actually criticizing because in the end it backfires and they're criticizing that this is how they're doing things? And
Mhm.
why does it take this to happen for you to acknowledge your daughter that you've raised, who's already a dragon riding warrior?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
If that was the point of it, or if I don't know, or if they were saying, oh, it is still okay to treat women this way, and we're just gonna be very gruesome about it. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think. I just watched it, so as it was happening, I was like, what is this? Like, why are they doing this?
Mhm.
Because I did read in a lot of places that the violence of the episode in general for a lot of people was hard to stomach. And
I think we've seen from the rest of the violence. I think
yeah,
we've seen worse.
I think there's been a lot of violence, and I saw that people were kind of critiquing, you know, like the attorney scenes too as being like too violent. I think that was fine. I mean, obviously very unsportsmanship, but
Right.
did you really expect that, you know, attorneys like that happen like they do in like PG movies, that everybody's super respectful and they show a flag and now it's your turn to go and nobody dies and nobody
Like
cheats?
A Knight's Tale.
Yeah, you know, with a background of, you know, Bowie music.
I do think that's how it happened, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Johan, what do you think about?
But then it was like that male violence. I was like, that's fine. It's, you know, it's attorneys. It's good. That's not a problem. But what happened in that bedchamber, I don't think it was the actual gore of it. It was the desperation on the woman's face. Like, what is happening? Like what like he's being all loving to her and she looks exhausted, and it's just this, you're putting this woman down so badly, and you don't even tell her what's going on, and she's so confused and in so much pain.
I would definitely would like to pretend that it's just based on a series and nothing further than that, rather than being something that it's actually that it happens, like
that it happens.
But but definitely I would have to say that we live in a society that it's quite what's the word, este que machista,
Misogynist.
right? So so I would definitely say that these things might happen as well, maybe not the way it goes in that series, because like we live in a different like age now, but right.
And you have like better materials for it, but it definitely happens.
Right.
Depends on the state now.
Right. But just like Nani said, like she was suffering, she had no idea what was happening. And the fact that she actually expressed herself that she was like really sorry that she couldn't give him a boy child.
Son. Yeah.
And I found that part like really sad itself, because it doesn't have to be that way, and there are many people still nowadays that they are just like that, and their son has to be like the best and the first one, you know. And it's not like that, because us like females and women like also have the same privilege, and I still see it nowadays. So you know, it was a really cynical and bloody scene. What like I said, I would like to pretend that it's just a series like for us to like to enjoy, but yeah, I would say that this part of it that it may also be like something that would help us to like change that perspective and incorporate like females and women, not to have like really that bad perspective of like women and treat them like they're like crazy and stuff like that.
I haven't just done my
for children.
Right. But I think that's the interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna opine on the validity of the violence of the scene. All I might say later after this point that I'm gonna make is, if like my understanding of the framing of it, especially like in the context of the tournament. But I should have done my homework before talking about all of this, because I should have looked up to see if there were any female women writers on the show, because I think that's extremely valuable to know. Because we can't, because I don't want to accuse the writers' room of being just like, oh, it's just men writing this, and there
And then
might
there's
be women
it
there.
turns out there's
So
women.
so let's do a research.
Put a pin on that.
Let's put a pin on that when we talk about episode 2 or 3 or something. But I think it's interesting though. I don't know if you guys felt the way I felt about like how the show just started, because I feel like the show was like it went 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. You know, it's just like, okay, here we go. Here's the setup of the entire show. And I felt like Game of Thrones kind of was not, I wouldn't call it a slow burn, but it was a little more methodical and unraveling the Game of Thrones, so to speak. I feel like this show's just like, this is what's happening. Uncle versus niece. Boom. It's just like, whoa, okay, that was really fast. Do you guys feel that the show was fast? And if so, should it have been slower? And vice versa, if you don't agree, do you think it should have been faster? Yeah.
They should have been slower with the names.
But that happens. But in Game of Thrones as well.
I think it started well, because it for me it seems like I already like kind of like started watching that show like long time ago or something like that. So I wasn't like getting into it. So I think it was a really nice time frame for me, I would say.
Interesting. Nani, what about you?
I gotta say, I'm not impressed so far with the show.
Yeah, that's actually something I was gonna ask you. You haven't said if you liked the show or not.
I'm not impressed.
What would you rate it out of 10?
Like a 5. 4.
But a 5, that's a failing. That's a failing grade.
Obviously it's just one episode, so it's hard to judge. But it was beautiful, but it wasn't nearly as visually stunning as some of the shows that are coming out now. It like
interesting, because I thought the visuals were like top notch.
I don't think it was nearly as visually stunning as let's say The Sandman. I don't think it was as visually stunning as that.
Well, completely different dish, but compare it to season 1 of Game of Thrones.
No. Game of Thrones was always good, and they did a way better job with the dragons.
Oh yeah,
and everything.
I'd be fair. I would say this was way better than Sandman.
Really?
But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Shots fired.
That's why we're here. It's fine.
Shots fired. Okay, start fighting.
We're not here to fight. This is constructive criticism.
Yeah.
I just thought, because Josvando thought it was gorgeous as well. He's like, it's actually gorgeous, but so far plot wise, it feels very like
derivative.
All the characters are really cliche. I mean, you kind of know exactly where they're going.
Do we know like what happens to like these characters because of the Fire and Blood book?
No, we don't know. Okay. And I haven't read that one either. But just saying, like, from the way they express themselves and how they speak and whatever, so far they're very, I don't know. Like, Daemon from the beginning was like trying to take over his brother and be the heir and blah, blah, all these things. And he's trying to amass his own private army, and he's probably secretly in love with his niece, because that was kind of creepy every interaction
but you don't know if they don't kill him in the next episode. This is
we don't know what happens, and it is the Targaryens and they love incest, so it's fine. Whatever.
They just love to love.
They just, oh God, no, don't love your family members like that.
Don't say that.
I'm sorry. Just don't. I don't know. I feel like
sorry.
I feel like so far it was like very cliche. I don't think it was as compelling as Game of Thrones when I watched it from the beginning. I guess, again, it's just one episode. It's hard to judge. But just
one episode.
Just from that initial interaction, it's like I wasn't blown away.
What did you like? Let's start changing your mind. And I usually this is how I always change your mind. Tell me things you like, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh my God, I did like it. Yeah.
That's the positive side.
Tell me what you liked.
I actually really liked the dragons, and the
Mhm.
dragons are really important because it's not only that they are visually stunning. I mean, one of the reasons that George has taken so long with the books is because he had considered skipping timelines in the original ones, and he said that he wanted the dragons to grow and do that experience of the dragons because it's the emblematic, it's the sigil of the Targaryen, it's representative of the Targaryens, and which makes no sense. Cover your ears for a second.
Earmuffs.
So earmuffs. Well, now I can't say it. I feel you're gonna have to listen. That you spend all 8 seasons and then all these books to get the dragons to maturity, and then you kill 2 like back to back.
Like nothing.
Like they're nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get all these build up, and it's ridiculous. And there's a lot of importance to like the dragons is the reason that they were able to conquer the 7 kingdoms, blah blah blah. So now to see them at their height, the fact that they have like 10 of them, and that me and Husband always have this like argument about the fact that they weren't actually dragons, because dragons have 4 legs and then the wings. So these ones are actually wyverns because their front claws are attached to the wings.
If the writer of the thing calls them dragons, they're dragons.
And then, but then
abide by the rules of the media. Don't use the rules from Twilight to talk about no. I mean, I just use Twilight as a random thing. You know what I mean? Use the rules
I know.
inherent in the content.
No, but it's very cool.
I'm not gonna talk about ants in Game of Thrones.
No, but I mean, it's
nerd.
Yes. It is a nerd thing. But the cool thing is we never really got to see Daenerys dragons to grow as much as they can, because according to lore, the dragons never stop growing. They continue to grow continuously.
Lore from the books?
Yeah,
or from
the books.
Nerd?
No, from the books. And apparently one of the reasons that the Targaryens fell is because they kind of began to be afraid of the dragons themselves and started putting them into pens. And each generation was smaller and smaller.
They start mentioning that in the show a little bit, actually.
Until they die out, because they're like afraid of them, and they start putting them into pens, and they die, and they become so small. Each generation is I think they say that by the last one that were born, we're like the size of dogs.
That's cute. I want a little pet.
Oh yeah.
Might be dangerous. Does it still breathe fire though?
Right,
because
but
that might be dangerous to keep indoors. Yeah.
So you get to see.
I see like it being a cat, really, like vicious, like a cat.
Vicious.
Even though yeah. So maybe not the best bet.
So you can see when you see Daemon's dragon at the end. By the way, it was super cool because it's like this red, crazy ass looking dragon when he flies up.
I like Rhaenyra's one that was gold. I was like,
the gold is good too.
Cool.
But the red was really cool, and if you see them flying off, the back claws are starting to develop wings as well. So it's like they get so big that they get wings.
You need extra support. You need science for that stuff.
So I kind of love that they're doing that because it has to do with the lore and everything. I love that they say for the first time a song in ice and fire, which they had never actually said. But that's
you see
irrelevant.
You see it actually in season 8, but I'm not. Yeah, but
a little bit of spoiler. Sorry, because then he does.
That's not a big spoiler though. Yeah.
No, but I'm gonna do a spoiler now again. Sorry.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Because they do this whole build up of, it has to be a Targaryen on the throne because Aegon has this vision, which is the Song of Ice and Fire, and we are gonna get enemies from the north, and we have to unite them, and blah blah blah. And it's like hinting at the build up from Game of Thrones, but we know how that ended. There wasn't a Targaryen on the throne. Winter lasted for like 2 days.
But who says that your dreams have to come true? That's reality, baby. Like dreams sometimes crumble.
But again, I was like really cynical about it because I was like, oh, they're bringing this back, that this is like the main importance of A Song of Ice and Fire. It's in the title.
It is. It still is.
And
that's the point of the
I was like,
show.
maybe George R. R. Martin's trying to like bring back how he wanted to actually end the books, because it was the series just, a soft open for how the series concluded. And now he's like trying to restructure it to really what's important is the enemy beyond the wall, and the Song of Ice and Fire, the Nightwalkers versus the dragons, the Targaryens. I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like Sounds like you're invested. Sounds like
So,
you're ready to continue the journey.
Yeah, I will continue. I'm
will-
still a little, you know.
I mean, I agree. I agree to an
Yeah.
extent because when the show ended, I was just like, oh my god, I didn't feel the way I felt when I saw Game of Thrones. I didn't feel the way I felt when I saw Westworld season 1. That I was just like, oh my god,
Westworld was really nice. I love
oh
Westworld.
my god,
Westworld season 1 was like
Westworld season 1 just blew
Yes, I love
my
that.
mind. It was so
that was
good.
glorious. It was
By the
so
way,
good.
if anyone, it was Westworld season 4. The season just ended. I was just like, oh, okay, well, there we go.
I was waiting for it to end to binge it because I've had mixed feelings about
it's only 8
2 and 3.
episodes. I'm just like,
really?
why did you give me 8? Yeah, 8. There we go. I was just like, yeah, 8 episodes instead of 10. And I was just like, I don't know, because I felt that season 3 of Westworld was kind of like a big improvement to season 2.
From season 2, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, okay, well, we're gonna keep
in a
going.
good direction. Yeah.
And then maybe I'm just too stupid for Westworld, but season 4 was a big disappointment.
Really?
I still haven't watched the season 4, but
yeah, I haven't watched season 4.
I hope everyone likes it because I want people to like stuff, as I've said before. But like for me, it was just like I was just watching it because I'm just like, well, I already started, I have to finish. But yeah, anyway, so Hot D didn't make me feel like the excitement that those shows make me feel at the beginning, but it still felt like, hey, I'm enjoying the intrigue, and I still want to know what's happening, and looking forward to like a next episode. So like I was saying, like on Twitter, it's just like, hey, it felt good to be back in Westeros. So ultimately, I mean, I would give it like a 7. I would give it a 7. It's just like, hey, I enjoyed it. There's things that I don't think it was as engaging as it could have been. I don't think and here's another problem. Like, I think we're asking one episode to have the collective awesomeness of the entire good stuff of Game of Thrones that we already have.
That's why I said the caveats. Like, I'm judging it, but
we're just judging it on a whole series. And probably if we look at it side by side with the first episode of Game of Thrones, it probably kicks the first episode of Game of Thrones' ass. It's like, no, there's a lot more here. So we're looking at, I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm just saying that we humans can see things with the rose-colored glasses.
Of course, yeah.
And nostalgia makes things better. And maybe that first episode of Game of Thrones
wasn't that great.
Maybe it sucks. Maybe it sucks.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't too.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
It started everything, so I'm pretty sure it's actually good. But you know what I'm saying. We had less things to judge that first episode of Game of Thrones on than we have for Hot D. And I'm gonna keep calling it Hot D. I'm sorry. Ever since I saw the hashtag, it's just like, well, that's HBO's fault, not mine. But going forward with the Hot D season, let's talk about the whole season, not just an episode by episode thing, because that will be impossible. What do you want to see going forward with House of the Dragon? What do you want to see, not see? What do you expect? Who do you want to die or succeed? Whatever you want to go. I want to speculate on. Joanne, let's start with you. What are your hopes for the House of the Dragon?
I want to see more on Rhaenyra. What's her name? Rhaenyra?
The new heir, the crown princess.
The young blondie, the heir to the throne.
I would
Rhaenyra? Whatever.
Something like
that. However they're pronounced.
The heir to the throne whose name starts with an R. There we go.
I want to see more on her, like her face expressions. It seemed a little off than what would I expect. So and also her friend like seems to keep a secret. So like I want to see more on that, and maybe she's pregnant. I'm expecting.
Who knows?
There's that's
because we know
maybe that's a red herring.
Sketchy stuff was happening that night. Maybe it didn't.
Maybe not. Maybe he just fell asleep. She read him a story and he fell asleep. Who knows?
Right? Who knows?
Maybe that's what we're expected to think, because obviously they cut the scene short, and it's just like that's But maybe not. Maybe he was in love with his wife in a fucked up way and just needed some company, comforting company, not sexy company.
So. We don't know, but she was like, she seems upset, like
G-Magic.
Yeah. What was it? Ottoman was it?
Otto Hightower. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
He has one of the more simple names.
Yeah, the Hand of the King.
yeah, and
Yeah, that's the same.
I also like when the king actually like asks her what does it mean, like what does she see when she sees the dragon. And like I wanted to know more on her perspective. Like it seemed like she said that people see ourselves just because of what we have as like dragons. So
Yeah.
Without them, like she actually said, like we are nothing without them. Something like that. So like I want to see more on that story, and yeah, I want to see more on her, I would say.
Nani, what do you think? What are your expectations on your lukewarm assessment of the show thus far? You want to just drain the tub of lukewarm water? Do you want to like fill it up with some, with some suds and get the party going?
I want the characters to be less archetypes of whatever they're supposed to be, because it's too predictable right now. So, and Game of Thrones was anything but predictable, honestly. When you think they were going one way, they went somewhere else completely usually. So I kind of want more of that. And I would like them to explore more kind of the mystical side of it that was kind of missing from the series, that was there in the books, that they focused more on, the myth of what happened, like where the dragons actually come from, the fall of Valerian, the first men and the children of the forest, and where the White Walkers come from.
But they don't start, again, to like reframe it with Game of Thrones. When Game of Thrones starts, they don't start talking about all that crap,
No, that's what I'm saying. They don't know. And even when they start doing it, they don't do it as much. They don't invest in it as much as they do in the books.
It's like
they kind of keep it in the background, and you know how it ends. So I mean, it's kind of like that becomes completely secondary, even though that's kind of like the core of the myth.
Yeah, we got to keep it real for the normies. Everyone coming in being like, what the hell am I watching?
So I do like it when things get weird and you go into the actual myth and the lore of what happens, and they're still in a moment in time that they remember those myths, because by the time we get, Game of Thrones, the Targaryens are exiled and no more, and you lose that. So here they would be closer to that mysticism, like they would remember, like those histories would still exist. So I would like that to be explored. I mean, you already saw one of the god trees. I don't remember what they were called. So, and it was
with the red leaves and stuff.
And it was actually alive, and you could see the face clearly and everything. So it invests more in like the three-eyed crow, and lean into those elements that were
Raven. I'm gonna correct you.
Sorry, three-eyed Raven.
Raven.
Yes. Sorry. Okay.
Take that. How does it feel?
Dude, I make
sucks,
mistakes.
Right? It sucks.
I make mistakes all the time. What are you talking about?
I know.
I say things wrong all the time.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I'm just here to keep you real.
Yeah. But you know what I meant, though.
Yes, I knew. Yes, I knew.
And the collective, please. Yeah, and the collective idea that those trees kind of like are present for the whole of human history, and the three-eyed raven can access it and all these stuff. So I kind of wanted to go, mystical. And now that they have the ability to do it, and that George is a little bit more involved in it, because you could tell that he likes that aspect of the myth, maybe we'll get to see more of that. And I feel hopeful about it, because there was the mention of the original Aegon's like premonition of what's coming. And there's been rumors, I think, online that the dagger that he gives her is Arya's dagger.
I think so. That was
I'm pretty sure that it is.
I feel like the camera stayed too close to that dagger for it to not be that one. Yeah. So I'm just like, well, that's for me that was. I saw online people were speculating. I'm like, it's not.
Dude, it looks like it. Pretty sure.
I'm just
so
like,
I want
that's
them
the implication.
To lean into more into winter's coming. Our true enemy are these people. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I'm excited. We'll see. And since we'll have like Lord of the Rings going at the same time, I'm really just like here just to enjoy the beautiful ride. That like we are gonna be taking with high fantasy and sci-fi. But in terms of like, I don't know what to expect because I want the unexpected. I want all the twists and turns and backstabbing that we have come to love and want from Game of Thrones. So yeah, I want to like next episode they kill Doctor Who. It's just like, and it's just like, oh crap.
And it's
This
like,
is not,
okay.
it's like, oh, it's like, this is not what I was
supposed
expecting.
to be the main antagonist, and now he's dead. Okay, yeah, we don't know.
I
really want to see people as intelligent as like Littlefinger and the Spider, because so far everybody's very surface intelligent.
Well, you gotta set them up.
Claro, claro. We don't know what they're doing.
And there's gonna be more people coming in.
Yeah.
I want the queen who never was, or whatever her name was, to start being a bad bitch with Rhaenyra and just being like, okay, let's get this going. Let's kill everybody. I want that to happen. But yeah, I want it to be like Luke Skywalker said in The Last Jedi. This is not going to go the way you think. So I want there to be I want it to just like be great. Just do what you want and surprise me at every turn, but not in a crappy way. Just surprise me like, oh crap, that's a clever twist.
And in a way that makes sense. Like, don't do it just to surprise me.
Right, because sometimes it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Very exciting, very exciting. The future is bright. So between Hot D and with the Rings of Power, you can't make a rings. Rob. Rings of it's not as exciting as Hot D. But we got Rob and Hot D coming in hot for like the next couple of weeks. So it's gonna be a fun, wild ride. And then right after that, we're gonna get obviously Andor.
Bad Batch and Andor.
So apparently Bad Batch might get delayed.
Okay.
We'll stay tuned. We'll stay tuned for that.
It'll come.
But with that, I think unless anyone has something else to add about our new favorite, no, it's not our new favorite, but one of our fun shows that we will be engaging with, House of the Dragon, I think we are good for today.
I think we're good. I think we should decide right now to do the same thing kind of with the Lord of the Rings, like do a premiere reaction to that first episode. And then with this one and with Lord of the Rings, then do like
battle.
How do we feel about the whole series once we watch the whole thing?
That's a good one, actually.
Yeah,
because we have a new episode of Hot D on the 28th, but I don't know if we should collectively agree to skip it, so that way we can just compare 1-to-1. First episode,
and then compare at the end. I'm okay with that.
But we shall discuss.
We shall discuss. But I think it's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we are done for today. Thank you for joining us as always. We are Triad of the Force. You can find us anywhere that podcast can be found. Just search Triad of the Force and you will find us. We have shirts. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of Game of Thrones, because as much as we love Star Wars, there is a lot of other really great nerd media out there. If there's something else that you want us to cover that we haven't talked about yet, let us know. And leave a like, leave a comment,
subscribe. Everything. Share it with your friends, share it with your parents, share it with everybody. Except that toxic uncle of yours. Don't share it with him. Share it with all your friends.
And even when we are lukewarm about things, constructive criticism.
Yeah. We don't hate. We appreciate.
Family podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ish.
Well,
yeah.
So until next time, may the Force be with you.